Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining this side event on small area estimation, bringing theory to practice. We will have the next an hour and probably half an hour and 30 minutes for covering the topics in our side event. This is one of the 57 Statistical Commission side events, which is being held virtually. With distinguished guests here, speakers presenting regional aspects of the work and country examples, and also more from the World Bank and UNSD in terms of organizing and managing this project so far. So without further ado, I'll pass the mic to our colleague, Ms. Hawi Shen, who is leading this activity from United Nations Statistics Division to do the opening and overview of the session. We have a very tight program, and lots of participants will try to make the most out of it. Hawi, please go ahead.
Thank you so much, Daniel. Thank you. Welcome, colleagues. My name is Hawi Chen, coordinator of the Intersecretary Working Group on Household Surveys. I work at UN Statistics Division. So really welcome to this study event on smart estimation that's jointly organized by UNSC, the World Bank, and our regional commissions on Africa, Asia Pacific, and Latin America. Policies for the noise behind. So as countries strive to deliver on the Sustainable Development Goals and leave no one behind, the demand for disaggregated, timely, and policy relevant data have never been greater. Yet many NSOs face constraints in producing reliable estimates at subnational lower geographic areas and using the survey approach. Smart estimation really offers a practical and methodologically robust pathway to bridge this gap. By integrating survey data with administrative data, geospatial, and other non-traditional data sources to produce more granular insights while maintaining statistical rigor. We, from the UNSD side, have been partnering with our colleagues here. You will be hearing from them to advance the use of smart area estimation in national statistical offices. Really grateful for their partnership. Our colleagues from the World Bank, from our regional commission, with various training materials, guidelines, e-learning courses, and workshops. Those will be hearing their work, and also from countries and students directly training countries that have done great work in applying as a practice. We look forward to hearing from them, and then we also look forward to better serving our countries. They use this smart estimation. Over to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Hawi, for setting the stage. I think we have a sound issue from you a little bit, but I think most of the topics have been covered. Just making sure that our partners are in the house, the Regional Commission, the World Bank, who is really pushing this forward for enabling NSOs to get to work with small area estimation where it makes sense. So without further ado, I'll be switching to the World Bank, who's been the anchor for this program. Our senior economist David will take you through the why small area estimation and what the bank is doing in supporting countries and some of the outcomes of the work so far they have been working on. So I will pass it to David. David, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Daniel. Let's give me a moment perhaps to get the presentation up. Can everyone see the presentation? Let me also go into slideshow mode. Wonderful. So I hope everyone can hear me well. If not, I can speak louder. And thank you very much, Daniel and Hawi, for organizing this presentation. It's really an honor and a pleasure to be here with you and with so many colleagues from national statistics offices. I'm going to be talking about geospatial small area estimation with a focus on a recent application that we're currently working on for Nigeria. This is a nice complement, in my view, for a lot of the work that the bank has done traditionally on small area estimation with survey and census data, including the relatively recently produced guidelines. But we are also looking to extend this to geospatial applications. So I think we mostly understand the benefits of data integration. Surveys measure very important socioeconomic indicators, but they're expensive. And because of that, they're small. And because of that, we cannot be very granular with them. So most surveys cannot go below state or district levels. And of course, we would love more granular information. And so to do that, we can combine surveys with comprehensive auxiliary data to increase accuracy and precision of estimates. And this is potentially useful for many things. We can use it to target social assistance programs, monitor and evaluate programs, and do quality control for sample surveys. There are concerns that sample surveys may not always be representative. For example, if potential areas in a country are affected by conflict, there may be some places where enumerators can't go, and data integration actually offers a method for measuring that or estimating that. Traditionally, as I mentioned, we've used survey and census data for small area estimation. There's a long history of this going back to Fay and Harriet in the late 70s in the US, estimating average income for counties. Then in the bank, Albers, Lanyau, and Lanyau kind of popularized the use of survey and census small area estimation around the world. Zhang and Lahiri and Molina and Rao also made improvements to the methods. And so this is great, but censuses are very expensive. They're conducted typically once every 10 years, but in some countries, not always that frequently. And so there's been more recently a large literature combining survey and geospatial data to try to see if we can do smaller estimation more frequently. Amazingly, this started in 1988 with a paper that was 30 years ahead of its time. Then everybody forgot about the potential of geospatial data until 2016, and then a relatively recent literature, as I mentioned, has really pushed forward the boundaries on it, and there are a couple recent reviews, one of which I did, that basically show that this stuff works, that the geospatial data that is available is predictive of many important socioeconomic indicators. There's a lot of interest in big data. I'm focused on geospatial data in particular because it is publicly available and we don't have to worry about selection bias. I still have some concerns with mobile phone data. I believe it can be useful for some applications, but still not everybody has a mobile phone. Also, there's been a really revolutionary increase in the access to publicly available imagery and indicators spurred on by platforms like Google Earth Engine and Microsoft Planetary Computer. And now a lot of research, as I mentioned, that shows that geospatial indicators really excel at predicting spatial variation and urbanization. And if you think about the things that it can measure, like buildings and nighttime lights and vegetation and land classification, these are all kind of good proxies for urbanization and how urban a place is. And that in turn is correlated to many important socioeconomic indicators. For example, almost everywhere on average, rural places are poorer than urban places. One area in which this has been applied quite frequently is poverty estimation. We've done a number of tests relative to survey data in about 8 countries and shown that the increase in precision is equivalent to expanding the survey data by about a factor of 2.5 to 9, depending on the context and the measure. Surveys cost a huge amount of money to implement, as you all know, $1 million or more. So if we can expand the precision of these by 2.5 to 9, for using a procedure that is essentially free, in my book, that qualifies as a huge win. Although much of the research so far has applied this to poverty estimation, I believe it can be applied to many other indicators, and in fact, we are doing so. Not all indicators are sufficiently precisely measured to do this. Not all indicators are correlated enough with population density to do this, but many are. So just to give you an example of the best case scenario, and this is from older work done in Tanzania, And we use geospatial small area estimation to go basically from the district to the commune level. That's the lower level is on the right, the higher level is on the left. And what's notable about this that we don't show here is that the average precision is measured by the coefficients of variation is about the same in both of these pictures. And so the first one did not use geospatial data, the one on the right does. And it just shows that in this case, which was kind of a best example, best case scenario, we're able to go a level lower in terms of administrative units with no loss in precision. So this is great. And then you might think, why isn't everybody using it? But there are sort of some obstacles, I think, that have held back adoption. And one of them is that there is a variety and sophistication of methods that have been used for this, and that can be confusing. And people have used linear mixed models, which are relatively simple, but even somewhat complicated, like empirical best predictor models. These have been used traditionally for survey and census data. They can also be used for geospatial data. There's also tree-based machine learning, like extreme gradient boosting, and now more recently mixed effects gradient boosting. So those are maybe one step up from linear mixed models in terms of complication and sophistication. But then a lot of the literature has been focused on deep learning approaches, especially convolutional neural networks, and then more recently AI with using foundational transformer models. These are kind of big AI models that have been trained on many thousands of terabytes of imagery to recognize features, and then they can be fine-tuned with data to develop predictions tailored to data. That's one issue, is that the methods can be sophisticated. A second issue is that the EA location can be sensitive. Notably, the demographic and health surveys would publish jittered EA location information, but not all surveys come with EA location information. And so for public researchers, these can sometimes be difficult to obtain. This can be somewhat complicated to implement and requires considerable computing capacity and memory. This is especially true for the more sophisticated deep learning and AI methods. And of course, these also require very strong technical skills. The tools and the documentation are still evolving and developing. We're trying, but we're frankly not gotten as far as we would have liked in terms of getting the tools and documentation out there. So these are all obstacles that are kind of holding back adoption. The hope is that through events like these and finishing tools and documentation and doing workshops of the sort that we've organized in the recent past, that the word will get out and people will start taking advantage of the benefits of publicly available geospatial data. So what we're trying to do is work on applications of generating smaller array estimates for indicators for countries, doing additional research and evaluation, testing methods using geolocated census data. There are a few countries where we've been able to obtain geolocated census data, and those are great for testing methods. And then developing tools, and we're working on two R packages in particular, one called GeoLink and one called PobMap. The first one helps download publicly available geospatial indicators. The second one helps integrate it with survey data. We've also learned to utilize Google Earth Engine, which is a very powerful platform for obtaining publicly available geospatial data. And of course, now with the development of AI and the AI chatbots, you can just ask it to write code for you. Momentum is accelerating here, but a lot of work remains. So I'm going to talk here mostly about an application I'm working on currently for our country team in Nigeria, where I'm doing geospatial small area estimation for 10 indicators. The 10 indicators are listed there. I think what's neat about this is almost all of the work and sweat goes into downloading the geospatial indicators. Once you have that, the cost of adding new survey indicators is essentially negligible. It's just, switching in a different dependent variable in the same code. Going to 20 indicators would not be difficult if they can be predicted by geospatial data. And so just to give you a sense of what we're doing, we created a shapefile of about 1 million 1 square kilometer grids covering all of Nigeria. And then we use that to obtain publicly available geospatial features, starting with population estimates. There are some relatively recent population estimates produced by WorldPop that we used. And when we use that, we find that there are about half of the grids in Nigeria are populated, nearly 500,000. And so we can obtain geospatial data for those populated grids, merge those with the survey data using enumeration area centroids obtained from the survey. We were able to get those. Then estimate a model using the survey data, use that model to predict outcomes for each grid, weight it by the estimated population, and aggregate it to the desired geographic level. We're doing both wards and local government areas. The most complicated part of this is using bootstrap techniques to estimate confidence intervals. That can be difficult, but our aim is to get sort of documentation out on that, on how to do it. So just to give you a sense of the geospatial features being used, the modeled population estimates come from WorldPop. Nighttime lights can be downloaded from the Colorado School of Mines website. There's building data from 2018 and 2023. Land cover, cropland, open source cell tower location, which may not be super reliable, but we can use it. It's also not the most predictive variable, as I'll show you. Vegetation index, average rainfall, aerosol, and ozone index, which are measures of pollution that are local, and then conflict events. We also experimented with these new and interesting Google DeepMind embeddings, which are available on Google Earth Engine. They work well on their own, but when we have all these other variables in the model, the embeddings add very little. So you can estimate a model at the grid level. P hat here is our survey estimate of poverty in a grid that's been matched to the enumeration area. We use as predictors at the grid level and predictors at the target area level, which is a ward or an LGA. And there's an error term both at the ward level and at the grid level. We use an arc sign transformation because we're estimating proportions and we want to keep the estimates bounded between 0 and 1. We also, in this case, we're using extreme gradient boosting. I find that's widely used in very mature software. It's been very well tested. We've tested it in-house. It slightly outperforms linear models in many cases. Not always, of course, but it has a very flexible functional form that handles nonlinearities and interactions quite well. And you can measure the importance of predictors through Shapley decompositions without too much difficulty. So it's a little more flexible than linear models and a little more interpretable than the AI and deep learning models. Perhaps not as accurate as mixed effects gradient boosting, but that's a little more complicated and we haven't tested it. And probably not as accurate as convolutional neural networks or transformers. But other times that we've tested that, we use different features than we do here. And so I think with the extra features we have here, we can get very solid estimates even with extreme gradient boosting. And indeed, the models are pretty predictive. If you look at R squared, these are in-sample R squareds, but there is some regularization, so it's probably not overfitting when it comes to XGBoost. And just predicting these indicators, the R squareds are quite high. They do vary. So then I mentioned you can do Shapley decomposition to look at what measures are important. And when we look at poverty, it looks like it's buildings, pollution, and land classification and nighttime lights that's doing most of the work. And I think this makes sense. These are all correlated with urbanization, kind of as we'd expect. And fortunately, I think they're pretty solid in terms of the quality of the data. Obviously, not every building is going to be correct, but on average, there's very useful information. And I think what's nice is that this, as we've seen in the past, leads to large increases in precision relative to the direct survey estimates. These are the mean width of the confidence intervals of estimates, and they fall by over a half. That's really impressive, I think, because the mean confidence interval widths are basically proportional to the standard error. The standard error is the square root of the variance, and the variance is inversely proportional to the size of the sample. So this is an efficiency gain approximately equal to expanding the sample by a factor of 8 or 6 by this measure. So that I think that's, again, a big win. They are less precise than the the quote representative state level estimates. So there's an average confidence interval width of 15 for the estimates that are currently published. We would go up to 26 even for LGA estimates if you use this method. And so I think this leads to kind of some philosophical questions of how precise is precise enough to publish. So I just want to give you a sense of, these are preliminary estimates, but these are what the maps look like. They show quite a bit of poverty in the northern half of Nigeria. But there are pockets, and you can see where there are pockets where it's redder than other places. And even in the northern and the northeast, there are pockets where it's notably less poor than other places. And also in the south, you can see there's quite a bit of variation even within states. These have been benchmarked to match the survey estimates at the state level, which I think is important. You can see somewhat similar patterns, but also some differences in multidimensional poverty, which is, I think, interesting. And also some pockets where you can see particular wards. We can look at other indicators like the secondary enrollment rate for education. Again, different pockets sort of towards the middle of the country where that's weaker. So these are interesting. I think for someone who knows Nigeria better than I do, they would be very interesting. But I want to again caution that these are preliminary. They need to be reviewed within the bank and by the government. They're not ready to be used quite yet. Anyway, to conclude, I feel that the Geospatial SAE is practical and expensive and useful. All of this is using publicly available data, so it's relatively cheap. And for those reasons, I think it should be used routinely. Getting to kind of routine use requires tools, knowledge, and computing power. I think we can help certainly with the tools and the knowledge. The research on methods, and there's been a lot of research on methods, I think it's useful, but it shouldn't stop applications at this stage. And in many cases where we've compared methods, the differences in accuracy are really not that major. So as an extreme example, we did there's a recent paper that's coming out soon that compares different methods for combining census and survey data. And we found that when we simulated a targeting program, the preferred method beat kind of the less preferred method slightly. And that translated to a 0.01 percentage point in simulated poverty after a targeting program. So in my view, that's kind of small enough that it shouldn't cause a lot of debate or hold back adoption. There can be a lot of discussion about methods, but in practical terms, the differences are probably not that major in many cases. Meanwhile, the methods offer trade-offs on interpretability, simplicity to estimate, parsimony in terms of how easy it is to communicate model parameters. And so if the differences in accuracy in a practical sense are not that huge, maybe one does want to go for a method that offers more interpretability or is simpler to explain. There can be bias in this kind of technique. The model-based estimates, they reduce sampling error. The reduction in sampling error outweighs the introduction of model error, so it's a net win. The estimates are more accurate on average, but there is model error. And so we have to think about how to deal with that. And maybe this involves some sort of redress mechanisms of being open to a procedure for handling complaints if there are complaints. It is possible that a place looks less poor in terms of its urbanization than it is. And even though everything is kind of more accurate on average, these cases can be important. And then I think we need to think a little harder to decide when estimates are sufficiently precise to publish. So survey-based estimates often, there's a threshold based on the coefficient of variation adopted by many national statistics offices. Actually, I feel this is problematic for proportions because it varies whether you use a measure or its complement. So it's quite possible we could publish the non-poverty rate, but not publish the poverty rate. And that doesn't really make sense to me. Or you could publish the in-school rate, but not the out-of-school rate. So I'm not a huge fan of coefficients of variation for proportions. They can be useful for other things. And then in general, these estimates could be useful for policy, even if they're not entirely precise. So thinking about, what the right precision measure, if any, for publishing these, I think is important. Of course, quality control, regardless, is crucial. So whenever we do this, there does need to be some sort of process of evaluating the estimates, making sure they make sense, et cetera. But I do believe that it is not useful to suppress useful estimates. and that these techniques can be very widely applied and really help provide more policy relevance and useful data worldwide. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David. I think for walking us through this impressive example on Nigeria. I'm sure everybody is looking forward to see the published results, which would be something that the NSOs would be very much interested in picking up the pieces on their side. There are a couple of questions, but I will come to the questions at the end so that we can answer them along the way. I'm jotting some of them in the chat, some of them in the Q&A, and we have some from the submission and registration. So I will come back to that, but really thank you for putting perspective, putting the research into practice. I mean, that's what everybody is looking forward to. And saying that, the regional commissions are at the center of this, making sure these theories come to practice by doing the interlocation work that brings NSOs in the region to this advanced research methodologies use and implementation. And I will transition to our regional colleagues. We have ECA and ECLAC, ESCAP on this session. We'll start with ECA. I'll share your presentation, Angela. Angela is our lead from UNECA, who's pushing this work with the region, the African region, and a number of activities have been happening in the past couple of years on SAE. I think it would be great to see where they are at and what they are pushing towards. So I'll try to put your presentation, Angela. In the meantime, you can introduce yourself, please.
Thank
Go
you
ahead.
so much, Daniel. As he has indicated, my name is Angela Chichoncho, and I'm a statistician at the African Center of Statistics of the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa. I'm happy to share with us, because we've each been given 5 minutes, so it's a really short presentation of about 2 slides. Yeah, but it's really to report on what we've been able to do in the year 2025. But maybe as a way of background, I would like to share that we've been doing this since 2023, and we have seen, of course, improvements based on the experiences that we encounter as this course is as this course is done by the participants. Could you kindly go to the next slide, please? Yeah, so like I mentioned, we started in 2023, and in terms of trends, we have seen an increase in the number of countries that have been sending nominees to participate in this e-learning small area estimation course. I think probably you could share the link in the chat for those that don't know about it, to maybe go there and see. But it is a self-paced course, e-learning course, and it lasts about 7 weeks. It has several modules and so on and so forth in terms of materials. So in the case of Africa, for example, in 2023, we had only 9 countries, but of course, also the approach at that time was different because the call was just open, and it was whoever saw the call that, self-enrolled, and at least in the case of Africa, we decided that we'll pick like 30 participants for a manageable class. In the next year, well, the approach was different. We reached out to the heads of national statistical offices and requested them to nominate. But that time it was really focusing on the Anglophone countries. And not all of them at that time, though. So we had about 12 countries. And this time round, we put out a call to all the 54 countries, including the Francophone. And we had a response of about 30 countries. Now, specifically in 2025, we got about 73 nominees as people proposed by the heads of NSOs, because they understand their people. That is at least the basis for requesting or having the heads of NSOs as the entry for us. And we requested them to register themselves, at least for the Anglophone. And 41 did, but of course you can see the numbers keep reducing. And then of course committing to, have to do the course over the 7-week period. You can see the numbers again also keep reducing. And ultimately those that actually do the assignment, because if you do not do the assignment and pass it, then you cannot say that you have completed or done the course, or qualified to take a certificate, that you at least have an idea. Yeah, so that has been, or that was the case with the English or the Anglophone. In the case of the Francophone, we had 9 countries that sent nominees, of which there were about 27, 17 registered. And unfortunately, in the case of the Francophone, we're not able to have the course done as per the model that is used, because there's an issue with some of the materials. But it is still planned that once this is completed, then they will be benefiting from the course. So the course is done in such a way that for those that enroll over the 7 weeks, at least on a weekly basis, they'll have sessions with a facilitator, the course facilitator, who takes them through what you call a synchronous class. And that is, of course, still virtual. But during this session, the discussions about the challenges that the participants may be experiencing, especially with the videos or the materials they would have interacted with in the course of the week. And as you can see, I think it still comes up as an issue, a challenge, the attrition, but we need to see what would be a solution for it. Now, we also did have an in-person training for, sorry, someone is trying to call me. Yes, so for an in-person training for the component that David has just taken us through. And of course, the prerequisite was that the participants for the in-person, and this was only for a select set of Anglophone countries, had to have completed the e-learning course, the small area estimation e-learning course, with proof that they had completed it, because it was forming part of the base for what was going to be learned in person. Though of course this one is skewed more to the geospatial side. As you can see, it is on Earth observation data. So it was a 5-day, more or less, really intensive workshop. In terms of the material being offered and so on. And we are really grateful to the partnership from the World Bank, the East African community, as well as UNSD that supported for the workshop to happen, this training workshop. So in a nutshell, we had about 15 participating countries. Could you just go back one? Sorry. Yeah, so we had 15 participating countries, and those are they, and a total of 26 participants. We also ensured, at least for the host country, which is Kenya, we invited the data person that is in the office of the UNRCO, that is the coordination or the coordinator's office. Next, please, as I conclude. I just thought I'd highlight some of the challenges that continue to persist. I think, of course, people who start with R and other packages usually, I beg your pardon, other packages besides R usually have a challenge, because this course is run in R. And so if one doesn't do that foundational bit of learning R, they'll have a challenge doing the course. And then, of course, this has really persisted, especially for the e-learning. The completion rate continues to remain a challenge, but we hope that along the way, even during this webinar, we can have maybe ideas on how we can overcome this one. But they do exist opportunities, at least in the case of Africa. We strongly see support from the top management, and by top management, I mean the heads of the national statistics offices. And this is evidenced by their responsiveness to our requests for nominees. The other is that the interest for small area estimation work is also evidenced in the application, especially by those that have gain the skills. Of course, later during this webinar, a colleague from Ghana will be sharing the Ghana experience. David alluded to the Nigeria case, but then also as individuals, some participants from the course have gone ahead to do their own papers. An example is some colleagues from Kenya. And we still think that at least not to leave people behind. Well, it would be great to have the materials, expanded to other packages that people are more familiar and more comfortable with, be it Stata or Python. So I'd like to thank you all for your attention, and also appreciate our partners once again. And thank you so much for listening to me.
Thank you, Angela. Thank you taking us to the story of the region in the past year. And I think I was part of the in-person training, and I have witnessed, the progress even from countries, and also the innovative ways of participants pulling other. I think you were mentioning about other tools like Stata and Python. We had a number of participants who were proficient in Stata, who were able to even pull their data from Stata into this workshop. And I think it's something that we need to think about, putting some more examples in that area. Thank you for that. We'll come back to questions later on at the end. Now I'll pass it to and saving some time, I'll pass it to Rod from Bangkok. He's also leading the regional work in Asia and Pacific. Back to you, please go ahead.
Thanks so much, Daniel. So give me a few seconds while I share my screen. Hopefully it's showing up all right. Seems to be okay on my side. Can you let me know if you see the screen? Okay, perfect. Well, thanks again, Daniel, and thanks David and Angela for sharing the work that you've been doing. Good morning, good afternoon, evening, everyone. So my name is Savannah Rotte. I'm an associate statistician from the statistics division here at SCAP, and it's a pleasure to be with you today and share SCAP. Well, I'll go beyond the training to share a bit more on the capacity development program on SAE that we've conducted back in 2025. I should first start off by saying that SCAP has been working closely with UNSD, ECA, and UN agencies such as UNICEF and development partners, namely the World Bank, to implement the capacity development program. So their support was very much crucial to the success of the 2025 activities. And even before getting into the activities, I should also mention that our SAE program built on the decisions of our previous committee. Back since the 7th session, which was in 2020, to prioritize data integration and innovation, integrate big data into official statistics, and promote a whole of society approach to implement our declaration on navigating policy with data to leave no one behind. So there's history to that. And with that foundation, we carry out the following activities back in 2025. Well, first of all, in collaboration with UNSD, ECA, and the World Bank, we published the how-to guide on Geospatial SAE in R. It's a practical guide with runnable codes and real data for practitioners and policymakers alike interested in Geospatial SAE. The guide is available in both HTML and GitHub versions, as you can should be able to see in a bit. I'll share my screen to sort of give you a quick demo of the guide. So this is the HTML version, so you can see it's very interactive. We also prepare a short sort of demo for you as well if you would like to know how to navigate the guide. I won't play it because we're running out of time, but do please watch it and navigate the guide in your spare time. I'll share the link with you in the chat as well. There's sub components to each chapter that you can go through. There's chapters on setting up all, as Angela mentioned. Some participants in the workshop that I'm going to tell you about later on had trouble getting used to working on all, and we've incorporated that in here as well. But overall, this guy is essentially a practical walkthrough where if you're interested in Geospatial SAE, you can just simply go through the chapters and you'll be able to not only understand the importance and the usability of Geospatial SAE, but you'll also be able to run the codes and follow along the examples and eventually use all this knowledge and codes for your own country context or indicator of interest. So let me get back to the slide. Right. Yes. So that's the how-to guide, and I highly encourage everyone to visit it. The link will be shared with you in the chat later on. Second, with support from UNSD and the World Bank, we organized our 2025 Asia Pacific Capacity Development Program on SAE, and we combine virtual e-learning facilitated by an expert from the World Bank and with in-person regional workshop in Bangkok on Geospatial SAE, which I will briefly tell you later on as well. So the guided e-session started on the 2nd of October and it concluded on the 14th of January because it includes 7 weeks of facilitated online classes and participants went through sessions where we have the expert conducted tutorials essentially through the e-learning course that we developed, and links will be shared again in the chat box on the CEP platform. CEP is our Statistical Institute for Asia Pacific, and through that link, participants went through all of the materials, and all of the participants were able to complete the course, including the graded assignments, and they were able to attend the workshop, which was similar to what Angela mentioned, was the main requirement for participants to participate in the in-person workshops. There were 20 of them for the 2025 cohorts and from 10 countries, so 2 per countries. And let me get the list for you. They're from Bangladesh, India, Indonesia, Malaysia, Pakistan, Philippines, Sri Lanka, Tajikistan, Thailand, and Vietnam. We're lucky to have one participant from Malaysia, Ms. Faiza, here with us, who will be able to share her experience later on. But yeah, so this course enable participants to be able to prepare themselves for the in-person workshop and contribute as much as they can. Speaking of the workshop, it happened from the 24th to the 28th of November, and it was attended by all 20 participants. The focus of the workshop was on providing hands-on capacity building support to NSO staff, essentially on using or and a little bit Python to conduct geospatial SAE for their indicators of interest. We had Dr. Josh Murfield. Some of you might have worked or known him. He was our facilitator, and he taught participants on working with shapefiles, raster data, packages like the one that David mentioned earlier, GeoLink, TidyTerra, PubMap, and estimating models such as obviously, PubMap mentioned earlier, and then is gradient boosting as well. Participants did bring their own data. Well, many of them brought their own data sources, and they were able to estimate their indicator of interest using the skills learned from the workshop. If you're interested, you can click on the link, or I will share in the chat box again to learn more about the workshop itself. And the link at the bottom there is another link in reference to the how-to guide mentioned earlier. Last but not least, we wanted to extend our capacity building initiatives even further. So we organized our Asia Pacific Stats Cafe on Geospatial SAE on the 27th of January 2026. We invited participants from our workshop and e-learning program to share their experiences and lessons learned in a panel with expert reflections from Josh and a resource person from BPS Indonesia. We also took the opportunity to showcase the how-to guide again on Geospatial SAE. As you can see, we're very, very proud of that in collaboration with a colleague from ESA, UNSD, and World Bank. And we've got quite a number of participants registered, 60 plus. And the panel discussion was lively, and everyone was very engaged, and more information on that can be found again in the link that will be shared in the chat later on. So that's all from SCAP in 2025, and we look forward to 2026 and what the year will bring. Thanks again for the opportunity, Daniel. Back to you.
Thank you, Rod. I mean, it's really good to see what's happening in the African region and in the Asia Pacific, and I'm probably participants have picked up. This is happening for people who are motivated, because it's not other kind of courses you just go for a week. We also have a prerequisite of people finishing the 7-week module that really puts the groundwork ready for the 5-day workshop, physical workshop at the end. We will be sharing all this information later on, all the right links. I see a couple of questions coming, which link where the e-learning courses and things like that, they will be shared. And the recording of this meeting, along with the presentation, will be shared with all the participants who registered here. So now, with all the regional commissions backing, and the UNSD and our partners, and in the World Bank, countries have been participating in this, taking the course online, and then also doing the physical course for a week. It is time now to switch to countries and see what's happening from their side of the work on SAE. Without further ado, I will pass this to our colleague from Chile, from the National Institute of Statistics in Chile, who will be showcasing their SAE experience. And they've been doing a lot of experimental statistics using SAE, and will be following up our presentation. Ms. Javier will be presenting the activities in INE. The floor is yours, Ms. Javier.
Hello. Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for the invitation. Can you see my presentation?
We saw it, and then it's gone. Can you reshare again?
Give me. I put it on presentation mode, and I think it's not working.
Okay.
Now?
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hello again. My name is Javiera Torres. I'm from Chile. And we're going to show you the results of the implementation of small area estimations in the National Victimization Survey. So a little context, our victimization survey is called Encuesta Nacional Urbana de Seguridad Ciudadana, and it's one of the longest victimization surveys in Latin America. It's collected annually since 2005, and it has a sample of about 24,000 households, providing national and regional representativeness. So in 2023, we have a major redesign of the survey. We redesigned the questionnaire and the sampling. And with that, we collected the first survey with communal representativeness for the urban areas of 136 communes. This came from a growing demand from our government for better geographical disaggregations given the characteristics of the phenomenon. However, having a communal survey every year, it's too expensive and it's not sustainable on the long run. So for 2024, we use SAI to obtain reliable estimates of the proportion of households victimized by violent crimes, which is the main estimate of the survey. This for the 136 communes of the design. And the results were just published. We published in January, and you can see it on our website. So regarding SAI, we started working back in 2018, actually, with the first capacity of building phase. This came from assistance from ECLAC. So we started working in 2018 with the survey from that moment, which is like the old version of the survey. And we work with the proportion of households victimized by high social impact crimes. This was a working paper that it was published in 2024, and it gave us a lot of lessons. Mostly that it was needed to have like a strong theoretical framework and establish a strong criteria for evaluating the results, and that these were consistent with the phenomenon. So, well, from 2018 to 2022, we mostly work in the capacity building in the NSO. And then for 2024, we established SAI estimations as official estimations of the survey. So in 2023, we had an exercise with the communal survey, which allow us to understand better the covariates and the needs of the model. So for 2024, as I told you, we use the survey, we use SAI as an official estimate, or mostly it was, so we use some methodology or framework. We use Avidi's proposed framework for the specification phase. We evaluate the user needs, the data availability, and the SAI methods available. So for the user needs, we defined that our estimator was going to be the proportion of households victimized by violent crimes, which is here. It's an aggregate of 7 different crimes, such as robbery or assault. And for the data ability, we put efforts on creating a theoretical framework which guided the search for the covariates. So we established some dimensions like, socioeconomic or socio-demographic characteristics, but we also look for data regarding crime and victimization, like police records, and infrastructure and environment, such as satellite images, national community information, and the system and informal settlement data. This phase, we also chose our target of estimation, which is commune. Commune is the smallest administrative subdivision in Chile, and it's equivalent to a municipality. And finally, we decided on using EVLAP based on the Feijered model, as it has been applied to poverty estimations in Chile and is quite consolidated as a methodology. After that, we went on the analysis and adaptation phase. So to reduce the volatility associated with the estimates, the sampling variance is modeling using a generalized variance function. And this gave us a more stable and robust measure of variance, which is subsequently used as an input for the model. We also established a domain inclusion criteria. which give us how many communes will have a purely synthetic estimation, or which ones was going to be direct and synthetic. So part of this criteria were the degrees of freedom, the number of observations, and the design effect for each domain. And then we search for our final model. So for our model, we have a model selection algorithm, statistical criteria, and conceptual validation. I'm going to explain that very shortly, each one of them. So we use a baseline model, including regional dummy variables. We use a stepwise selection, and we did the exploration of combinational variable subsets. So we throw all the covariates that we have and try to simulate different models. We also, we look for the statistical significance of the covariates, the AIC and the BIC. We also look for the residual diagnostics and multi-collinearity checks and the pre-benchmarking check. And finally, for the conceptual validation, we selected covariates that are expected to cover key thematic dimensions related to victimization. For the evaluation, finally, after we have our model, so we evaluate its precision and certainty. And to verify the assumption of linearity, we check the residuals, looking that there's no influential domains. We also look for consistency with the regional estimates, looking that the SAI fall within the confidence intervals of the direct regional estimates. In this case, region is the first level administrative division in Chile, and the communes are part of the region. So we expected that, no domain were above the confidence intervals. We also look for error measures. Particularly, we compare the root mean square error of the SAI within the direct estimations of the survey. This shows us, this is the graphic we have here, and this shows us that the SAI is significantly more efficient than direct estimations, especially in areas with a smaller sample sizes. So in the figure, we also sort the communes by sample size, which is highly associated with the reliability of the estimation according to our NSO standards. So we have the point estimations. This is for 2024, where we can see the EBLAB estimations tend to be more conservative than direct estimations. In blue, we can see the direct estimations in the areas with the smaller sample sizes. Also, as we expected, for the communes with bigger sample sizes, both estimators are quite similar. So this is sorted by sample size. This is the smallest and the biggest on the right. This has been a long work for us. We've been working on this for the past 6 years, and there is a lot of lessons that we have taken from the different exercises that we have made. So first, the quality of SAI estimates depends strongly on the relevance, the coverage, and consistency of the auxiliary variables, which are not easy to find. Regarding the limitations of the administrative records use, we identified in some cases coverage limitations. So we worked with 136 communes from around 300 that there is in Chile. And it was really hard to find data that covered the 136. We also find missing data in the administrative records and inconsistencies, which made it necessary to perform some imputations or in some cases to reject the use of the data. Also, to use an aggregated victimization indicator can facilitate the explanation of the phenomenon, but introduces challenges in generating predictive models. As I told you, this was 7 different crimes with 7 different characteristics, so it's harder to find auxiliary variables that can work with the 7 of these crimes. Also, models with high predictive performance are not always easily communicable. So for public policy context, it is essential to balance statistical precision with interpretability and transparency. For us, also incorporating the SAI requires safeguarding comparability with direct estimates and across periods, which is related to the last point. The annual frequency of our survey requires iterating and adjusting and progressively validating the models, strengthening their institutional use over time, and requires distinguishing stages of methodological learning, model testing, and implementation, which do not always align with the timelines for producing results. So we have a very short timeline here. We gathered the data in the last trimester of the year. We publish during the second trimester of the year. So actually being able to produce SAI estimations over each year, it's a serious challenge for us. And for the future, as we already have our first version of the SAI work, we are looking to expand to the use to other indicators of interest, for example, the dark figure of crime or the perception of insecurity. So it is important for us to understand that the results both on the quality of the auxiliary information sources and on aspects related to direct estimations. We also, well, as the limitations of the administrative records, we identified in some cases, limitations as the missing data. So we need to search we need to search data every year. For one data that working for 2024 might not be updated for 20 and 25 and so on. So it's a constant work. And finally, although it is possible to make reliable commune level estimates for the 20 and 24 period, for us, it has been a difficulty that we had that as we produce direct estimations for 2023 and synthetic estimations for 2024, we cannot rely on the usual statistical test to compare the estimates with the previous period. And this is going to happen to us again in 2025 because we have direct estimations again. So this is something that we're trying to research how to use this data and avoid the comparisons between the two different methods. So that's kind of what we are doing right now. Thank you.
Many thanks, Xavier, for an excellent presentation and also showcasing, the history of SAE in the National Institute of Chile. It shows clearly, the maturity of the work you're doing. I will come back for the Q&A later on, but I will pass now to the other continent, to Africa, and Edward from Ghana Statistical Service will be presenting their experience in SAE. We'll come back to the questions later on. Edward, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon once again from Ghana. I'll be presenting on Ghana's experience using SAE and then what we have been doing so far to date. Sorry.
There you are. Screen is back.
Okay. Please, can you see my screen?
Yes,
Oh.
yes, we do.
Okay, thank you. So, is it rolling or is still the same page? Okay, sure. So this is going to be the outline for the presentation. I have the introduction and then why we are into SAE, the entry point where we started from the capacity building and training, from training to practice, what we have been doing and then what we have done so far. And then what we are doing as GSS when it comes to SAE to institutionalize it and then challenges encountered so far, and then how we are moving forward, and then looking at what we will do in the future. So in Ghana, we have 16 regions, that's admin 2 regions, and then we have 261 municipal, metropolitan, and district assemblies. That's for the admin 3. Mostly our surveys are actually at the admin 2 level, but the demand for data is always coming in from the admin 3 level because of some of the local government policies that they have over there. So what we adapted is also part of this SAE. Actually, we have to estimate for them. And mostly during the past, we couldn't because we didn't have any idea of these estimates. And then nobody will give them the original and then try to make assumptions around how the districts will be like. But for now that we have been trained in SAE from World Bank, USD, UNECA, ECA, UNFPA, and in other regional commissions, we have some ideas of how we can do these estimations using the SAE methods that we have been trained on. I particularly was part of the just recent ended training that we had in Kenya. I was present there, and then with Daniel and then the team from World Bank. So we have been through this training from the past. I remember my colleagues also were there some time ago, and then I also came, and then we are also training other people in the office. What we do is that in most work that we take under SAE, we try to include a particular person or two to also be part of the work so that they also get some of the experiences in SAE so that we all work together and then also get more people with some skills in SAE to help us work. From that, the Ghana Statistical Service has been able to publish 15 reports using SAE. And then these reports were from the Ghana Demographic and Health Survey data and then the Population and Housing Census data. And then it ranges from the exclusive breastfeeding, childhood immunization, women's empowerment, gender-based violence, excessive alcohol consumption, double burden of malnutrition. We even have excessive alcohol content and all that. We have a lot. There are about 15 reports that has been published together with the UNFPA and the USAID DHS. So in this report, we try to use different methods. We use the ELN methods, we use the EBP, we use the Fahariot. The reason why we chose a particular method to use sometimes revolve around how we interpret the results and then the assumptions, the estimate methods to the policymakers so that also embrace the results that they are seeing. And sometimes we test these methods to see which one is giving us the best estimate, not just statistical assumptions, but we look at what we know from these districts, the data we have from the past, and what the estimates are giving us. Which one is closest to being true or being real regarding the numbers we are having. And then sometimes we test the assumptions like the UNFPA method that we are seeing, the ELN. Normally we do logistic regression on these estimates, on these data sets, and then we test the ROCs, that's the area under the curve assumptions. We test a lot of things to see which one is performing better before we choose the model to use. And then we also try as Ghana Statistical Service to, like I said, institutionalize the SAE method in Ghana. So we release a report, not just testing these estimates or testing these methodologies, but we release a report to policymakers to also use, to the district level, local governments, policymakers to also use. Sometimes we invite them to these publications so that they get sense of whatever we are doing for them, the numbers we are giving to them, how they were generated, how the estimates came about, so that they know what they are also going to use the numbers for, what even went into them. And there are still processes in place to make sure that SAE methods become core part of whatever we do in GSS. Most surveys are incorporating it. Apart from the DHS report that we have done, currently as I'm sitting here, we are also working on the MPI reports that were released some months ago, I think last month. So we are doing, that was also at regional level, and it's like a trend analysis from 2022 to 2025. We are also trying to run SAE for all these years, for all the districts, that's the 261 districts that we have in Ghana. And it's not just the head count of poverty, but we're also doing it at the indicator level and also even running the intensity of poverty for all these districts. So with all these models, there are different methods that we are trying to use. Currently, we are done with the head count, which was done using the ELL. The intensity is I've done for 2023, and then we tested the EBP, Fahrenheit, and then the base approach. The reason is that we can't estimate intensity of multidimensional poverty for each household, but it has to be an area level indicator. So we need an area level model to do this. So that's why we are trying to use the Fahrenheit, the EBP, and then the base, that's the Bayesian approach. And then the current one that we have that has been accepted is based on the EBP. So we are trying to use the EBP to estimate intensity for all the years also. So GSS is currently doing a lot. And I won't say we haven't faced some challenges. We have. And then that's also the reason why these are also based on purely census data sets. We haven't actually included geospatial data sets yet, because sometimes it comes with data harmonization between the survey, census, and even the geospatial data sets. And then also communicating uncertainty and model-based estimates to non-technical users are also a challenge sometimes. So we try to find a way of interpreting them in simpler terms or in simple languages for them to understand, to also cherish what we are doing at GSS. And then also choosing the right auxiliary variables also becomes difficult sometimes. I mean, it's like the MPI that we are doing. Sometimes we have to also make sure that the indicators that we use to estimating the head count poverty doesn't also end up in the auxiliary variables that we are using, the predators we are using to estimate poverty. So these are all difficult. Sometimes you need to bring in other external data sets, but because of how you have to harmonize and then you are not getting the right variables to merge data sets, choosing the right auxiliary variables becomes a challenge. But well, we are doing our best. And then also the right model, like a lot of challenges goes through when choosing the right model. And then we are facing capacity constraints when it comes to, let me put that way, facing capacity constraints when it comes to estimating models. But we try to put a member who have not had a skill in SAE in the team so that the person gets something in the tips when it comes to SAE. So that next time we can also rely on this person to help us in SAE models. And then what helps us move forward? I've mentioned one, we put members in the team so that they can do it. And then we also learn from each other. So we communicate. Sometimes we bring people from external to also discuss what we are doing so that they also give us their point of views and then we put them together. And then we also had great leadership from the part of the GSS management where they also accept that, okay, this is not our traditional way of doing things. This is something new, but they have accepted it and then we are also trying to put them forward. And then we give them also thanks. And then looking ahead, so currently there are plans for the GSS data science team to also look at external data sources and how we can incorporate. That is also solving our challenges when it comes to data harmonization. And then I mentioned the work of poverty, multidimensional poverty that we are working on. There's labor statistics coming. We are working on the Ghana Living Standard Survey. Currently, we are also working on the consumption and the poverty line estimates, which when it's done, we are also going to run estimates for the district levels because that one is also representative at the regional level. And then the data science team is working on core detail records. And then I am not part of that team, so I don't really know what is in the data set, but they are working on how they can get some variables to help us estimate these models at the district levels, something that will distinguish one district from another, not just based on the human beings living in it, but something that is peculiar to a particular district from the data set. So that is also work that we are also doing at the Ghana Statistical Service. Thank you.
Thank you, Edward, for going through Ghana's experience. I mean, it's really impressive to see all this reporting is using all this SAE modeling, which seems to be a little bit of a challenge for many NSOs. But going through these examples and answering the questions at the local level, that's where decisions are made, where the impact is much more important. That's really great to see. Yeah, time is flying, and we are trying to get everybody in, and we'll probably add extra minutes at the end for more Q&A. So without further ado, I'm now switching to another continent, going to Asia Pacific. We have our colleague Faiza from the Department of Statistics, Malaysia. She will be presenting the experience of SAE in their department. Faiza, the floor is yours. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Mr. David. Let me share my slide first. Can you see my slide?
It's coming.
Yes, I can see your slide.
Okay. Assalamualaikum and hello everyone. I am Faiza Rosyanti Tajo Aros, a statistician from Department of Statistics Malaysia. Today I will share my experience attending the SAE Capacity Development Program under SCAP, UNSD and World Bank. With our team, use SAE for estimate income and poverty at State Legislative Assembly in Keluang, Johor. This is the geography of Malaysia, and the arrows show the location of the study, which is Keluang, Johor. Below are the four maps clearly show the different boundaries for each administrative level in Keluang, Johor. The first map is our administrative district of Keluang as admin level 2. Then the district is divided into 3 parliament as admin level 3. Each parliament actually consists of 2 SLAs with a total of 6 SLA in admin 4, and we have 11 census district at admin level 5. For this study, we use 3 sets of data. First, the population and housing census 2020, the data up to enumeration block level in shapefile format. Then we have household income and expenditure survey in 2022 with the data up to living quarters level in CSV format. And we have satellite image data 2024 in format CSV and TIFF. By using our census shapefile data, then we generate the population map based on the enumeration block. From this map, we can see that the most population in Keluang Administrative District are in Parliament of Keluang. Then we create a new shapefile by combining the census and survey data, and the second map showing the distribution of average household income across the Keluang area. By using the data from Google Earth Engine, we also plot a point of nighttime light by using the point of coordinate, and we change the point at the center into a polygon. This map displays nighttime light intensity for Keluang. Then we use satellite image to create a simple map for showing how bright each area is at night. From the nighttime light map, we can conclude that the most population area, also the most bright area in the satellite image data. The polygon then are colored based on the average nighttime light, and the area with no data are shown in light gray in second map. Then we do some treatment for the EBs with no satellite data. We replace the missing data with the global mean. After finish with the data cleaning, we managed to use the guideline to SAE for poverty mapping published by World Bank to identify which method should be used for this study. From the decision tree on method availability, we choose to use area level model base. This is because the census and survey data are not conducted in the same time frame. The census in 2020 and the data were received at EBIS level, while the survey data was from 2022 and the data at LQ's level. So for this study, we choose to use the Fair-Harriet model. Then we use Lasso and GLMNet from package in R for the variable selection and transform the predictors to improve the fit of the model. The lambda value was used for extracting the variable with non-zero coefficient. For this study, we use income indicators, poverty line information, and nighttime light from satellite image as auxiliary information to help stabilize the estimate for this area. We cannot use direct survey alone because of the sampling might be used only a few households, so the numbers will become noisy, unstable, and sometimes misleading. We use the fair-headed model to improve the estimate by combining two sources of the information, which is what the survey tells us and what we know from other data from this small area. If an area has strong survey data, the model relies mainly on the survey, but if the survey data is weak, the model borrows strength from the auxiliary information. For this model, we group household by EBs and calculate the direct survey poverty rate for each EB. Then the model improves this estimate using the auxiliary data without any transformation. The fair-headed model without any transformation can be uneven or noisy. From the chart, we can see that the relationship between the direct survey and the model is less clear, and the results scatter among the points. The brown test results show that the correlation between the model predicted and the direct survey estimate is 0.68. This correlation results show that the auxiliary data we use is informative and support the model in producing better and more stable poverty estimate. Next, we try fitting the fair-headed model with log transformation from MD package. We apply a log transform to stabilize the modeling scale. After do the transformation, we convert result back to the original poverty rate scale using a bias corrected model or BC_SM. So they are interpretable. The output now include improved estimate for every EB plus their uncertainty or MSE with bias corrected back transformation to the original scale. As a result, the relationship become clearer, the data points are more orderly, and the model become more consistent. The brown test results show that the correlation between the models with transformation and the direct survey estimate is more better from 0.68 to 0.79. The main model accuracy indicator here are the MSE for how confident we are with the estimate. In summary, the fair-headed model gives more stable and reliable poverty estimate for each small area. This model improves the direct survey result by reducing noise and borrow strength from auxiliary information to make the estimate more accurate. Limitation and way forward for this study. For improving the data quality, we need stronger administrative and geospatial data such as housing condition, land use, school attendance, clinic visit, or we can also incorporate with other data sources such as mobile phone data, digital payment records, and additional satellite indicators to strengthen the model. Besides that, all dataset must include geographic boundaries information so the coordinate more accurate and the model become more perfect. And last but not least, to have better partnership by collaboration with local authorities, welfare department, utility providers, and other facilities provider is essential to access microdata. And these data sources can significantly enhance the accuracy of small area poverty estimate. That's all from me. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Faiza. It's impressive. Even I was thinking I'm going into the course myself, so it's really refreshing to see, you know, the sweat that goes into running all these modelings. As they say in Malaysia, statistics bloom in harmony. That's the motto. So we've now come to the conclusion of the presentations. We have an extra 5 to 10 minutes for Q&A. I have seen most of the questions are being answered in the chat. Very much thanks to David and Howie at it, but I will probably open one question for all the three country presenters for Edward, Faiza, and Javiera. This question is about, I think, you've alluded it to your presentation. A question from in the Q&A. We have a question from Sanchez. He's asking about if you can say a few words about how policymakers and government is accepting USAE results when you present it. So what do you consider, what are the things that is important to communicate this to the policymakers? If you have some experience, if you can share with us, that would be good. And you can jump in and answering Faiza, Edward, or Miss Vera.
Okay, thank you. For Ghana, I know that this estimate that we are producing is a great deal for policymakers, especially when we go to the local government. They use some of the estimates that we give them in their district common fund estimates. So when they are preparing their district common fund formula, that's how they call it here. They use some of these estimates to guide them in that. So yes, it's a great deal for them. When we produce them, they come, they sit in, and then we release the numbers to them. Yes. So I know they are using it because that's one of the things that they do. And I think the government also, yeah, because I've seen the Ministry of Sanitation, some of the other relying on these numbers that we put out for the districts to do some of the policies. I know they are revising some of the documents because of some of the estimates that we put out there. Yeah.
Thank you, Edward. Any input from Faiza or Miss Javiera?
Okay, for Malaysia, from Malaysia, we are currently serious looking for the small area statistic. We start publish our small area like Parliament and SLA statistic. And also in our current strategic plan for the department, we also include the small area estimation for our future statistic. That's all from me.
Thank you. And now to Chile.
Yes, so from us, poverty estimations with SAI models are already in place. So we do not produce those models though, but they have been working since around 2 or 3 years, maybe a little bit more. And for us with victimization, it has been a lot of work to consider these estimations. As we told you, we started working in 2018, and just by 20 and 24, we were allowed to produce these estimations within the official results of the survey. So, and it's still, we still publish as experimental statistics, so it's still not like official. So, but we are working on it. So we're expecting after 2 or 3 iterations, we might publish the results as official statistics.
Thank you very much. I'll just switch back for extra few minutes back to David. I've seen a number of questions answered there. Maybe if you can give us a quick highlight of what, if you want to broadcast this to the whole group on some of the questions. Most of them are on technicalities and type of models used, but I think it would be good to also, I've seen a few questions requesting support for doing some of the work. So I think if in light of the support that would be available in the coming year, if you could briefly present what we're going to do from our side in terms of supporting countries. Yep.
Sure. So thank you, Daniel. I think for supporting countries, usually the World Bank has a contact person in country, and it's best to work through that person or a contact person that works with NSOs. And I can work through that person and support country teams, as I've been doing with Nigeria and will be soon with Colombia. On some of the technicalities, I think I'm happy. I put my email address in the chat. I'm happy to address any questions that people may have. One thing I would point out is that cross-sectional small area estimation is very different from intertemporal survey-to-survey imputation. And the same variables that may do well in cross-sectional small area estimation may not do well when trying to predict across time. Simple models with geospatial indicators, for example, do not do as well predicting across time as they do across space. And in general, I feel more confident using models that have been trained in a cross-section to predict across space rather than applying them to intertemporal prediction, though my colleagues have been working on that, as I put in the chat, and have written quite a bit. And I would encourage people to talk to them about that. It's just a different thing. Yeah, I'm looking forward to continuing this agenda. Certainly the World Bank is still very interested in how to use models and data integration to produce better data. And we're happy to support any countries that have the same interests. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Just back to the last 30 seconds or so for our regional commission, Angela and Roth. I think this is something that also comes to you, the support for countries and what is the plan for next year. If you can say a few words on that, that would be great.
Okay, I'll go first. Thank you, Daniel, for the opportunity. Without a doubt, definitely these techniques are really important, and they help us really leverage the data that we have to further produce, disaggregated estimates and so on and so forth, fill gaps. And so they are definitely important. As the African region would want to continue promoting this among the member states, and really exposing them so that at the end of the day we can have a critical mass of individuals that can actually apply these techniques, use these methods, do this modeling to achieve the ultimate goal. And definitely for our Agenda 2063 as Africa, as well as the global agenda, we definitely need this. So we'll continue to encourage other member states to apply this. Thank you. Back to you.
Thank you, Angela. Back to you, Roth, for the last word.
Thanks, Daniel. Thanks, everyone, for the active contributions. Like Angela, ASCAP is really keen on exploring opportunities to help countries out. As colleagues mentioned, our doors are open if you're interested in reaching out and letting us know, how we can help you with your work. Small estimation for us ties in quite nicely, particularly geospatial small area estimation is, ties in nicely to our work on big data, data science, and data integration work. So in a way, it really is part of our plan to extend support to countries in our region as much as we can, whether that be through knowledge management, capacity building, aka projects, or providing hands-on training, or even webinars type of support. So yeah, do look out for more information from us. The best way to do that is through our website. That's the first point of contact, and you can also reach out to me or to our generic email more generally as well. Back to you, Daniel. Thank you.
Thank you, Rose. Thank you, everybody, for attending the session. I just put one slide because there was back and forth in the chat. This is a number of tools available. I mean, you don't have to wait for a response from us or from a specific agency. You can go ahead and do a lot of self-based courses are online that was mentioned during the call, and some exercises are already there. But in general, yes, UNSD in collaboration with partners will be happy to help in this process. Unfortunately, Howie has to leave, but we are from our side, from UNSD side, coordinating this work with the Intersecretariat Working Group on Household Surveys as an item that we're working on. So we'll keep in touch. And thank you for your attention and making it to the last bit. Sorry for taking extra 5 minutes of your time. I appreciate your patience and follow-up. Have a great day.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Thank
everybody.
you.